Did you know in the movie Lilo and Stitch, you may have noticed in Nani's room that there are a ton of trophies and medals from her surfing career. This indicates that there is a chance that she could have gone on to great things with surfing and maybe even became a professional, but gave it all up to take care of Lilo after her parents passed away. Welcome everyone to the Did You Know Movie Show with Life with Devin T. I am your host Devin, and we are joined by a very special guest, my brother Billy.
Thanks for having me on this show.
Now this is our first episode ever, and today we're talking about the movie Lilo and Stitch, which came out in 2002. On today's episode, we have a lot of great segments. We're going to be going over my top 10 Lilo and Stitch movie facts and hidden details, our favorite moments from the first movie, thoughts on the new movie and whether it will reach $1 billion, and then I'll be quizzing Billy with some Lilo and Stitch movie trivia, so let's get started. There are so many hidden details and movie facts from the movie Lilo and Stitch, and in my top 10, I'm starting out with the fact that we actually know what Lilo's last name is. Billy, did you ever know this?
I did not. What is Lilo's last name?
So it turns out that Lilo's last name is actually Pelikai, and it was revealed on the adoption paper when she adopts Stitch. This is one of my favorite facts from the movie because for a while, fans didn't know what Lilo's last name was, but you can see it briefly for a few seconds, and this is a pretty cool fact. Fact number 2 is about Pudge the fish. When Lilo explains that she needs to give Pudge a peanut butter sandwich every Thursday because he controls the weather, everyone thinks she is crazy. But it turns out later on in the movie it is revealed that Lilo's parents actually died from a rainstorm, which is why it's so important to her. It may also indicate that her parents died on a Thursday, and Lilo thinks that by controlling the weather and giving Pudge this fish, it may help save Nani or maybe some other friends she may have. This is actually pretty dark. Billy, have you ever heard of this theory? And I think it's pretty true.
I have not. I do remember, though, in the movie when this happened with the fish at the dance scene.
Yeah, and you actually do see Pudge swim by with a peanut butter sandwich in his mouth at the early intro. It's very hard to see, though, but you can see it for a few seconds. In an original concept, Stitch was actually going to be an intergalactic gangster, and Jumbo was going to be a disgruntled member of his gang who was left behind during a heist and was going to go after him as revenge. I'm really glad they didn't put this one in, though, because Stitch is a much more sympathetic character in the movie, and this I don't think would have done well at all. There are actually cameos from the directors in the movie Lilo and Stitch, and it actually happens after Stitch breaks the water gun apart. Cobra is shown looking on disappointed as a crowd of people run by in terror. The last two to run by are cartoon versions of Chris Sanders and Dean DeBlois, who were the directors, and if you didn't know, Chris Sanders also does the voice of Stitch. A cool Hawaiian movie detail about Lilo and Stitch is when Stitch messes up Lilo's room, she gently places a white lei around his neck. He immediately falls into a tranquil-like state, and it turns out that white leis actually represent love, purity, and new beginnings in many cultures, including Hawaiian. In the hotel scene, Stitch can be seen carrying a rose, and this was actually inspired by an animation student known to give flowers to the animators. This happened at the annual Disney Institute animation classes, and this student got a little Easter egg, and I'm not even sure if he knew that this little gesture was put in the movie in honor of him. Now, one of my favorite facts from the movie Lilo and Stitch is that one of Dean DeBlois' dogs was also recorded breathing and grunting, and it was mixed in with Chris Sanders' performance as Stitch. There are actually some background aliens in Lilo and Stitch that have the same character designs as characters from Winnie the Pooh. The alien who says he's loose on deck C appears to be modeled after Roo. The alien who calculates where Stitch will land is clearly modeled after Piglet, and you can even see one that looks similar to Tigger. A movie detail actually reveals how old Lilo really was. Did you know at the end of the movie Lilo and Stitch, you can see that she has a birthday party and there are 7 candles on her cake, indicating that she was really 6 years old throughout the movie, and this was her 7th birthday. This gave fans a glimpse into how old Lilo really was, and I think it's a really great detail. And lastly, for fact number 10, in Lilo's room on the shelf, you can see Dumbo for a split second as a plush. I know this was a great detail that I noticed as a kid, but it makes a lot of sense because just like Dumbo, Stitch was an outcast. Dumbo was also painted with watercolors for its animation, and this has the same exact animation as Lilo and Stitch, which is pretty cool. Now, Billy, did any of those facts or details really stand out to you?
I thought hearing the fact about the Winnie the Pooh characters was really interesting. I'm a big fan, and I had no idea. It was definitely something that surprised me. I was also surprised to hear that the directors were in some of the scenes. I hadn't realized who the the performance was of Stitch, and it was really cool to hear that Chris Sanders played Stitch, the voice you had said. That's very interesting.
Yeah, well, he's also reprising his role as Stitch in the live-action Lilo and Stitch remake, which I'm really looking forward to. Now, Billy, what would you rate the movie Lilo and Stitch out of 10?
That's a great question, Devin. I rewatched the film, and I was impressed. I mean, this brought me back to 2002. This was a time when I had it on VHS. You could go to the Disney store, and you could actually pick up a copy of the movie, and you got lithographs with you. And I think just nostalgia alone definitely ups my rating. I would definitely give this movie, for me, and I know I'm pretty generous, but a 9 out of 10. This is one of my all-time favorite movies from the 2000s, and there's something special about Lilo and Stitch because it just brings the whole idea of Disney animation, that classic animation style, to life in a more modern form, and especially when you bring aliens into the mix and, outer space. Those are two of my favorite topics and favorite things that are created out of movies right now. I'm a big Star Wars fan, and I just, I would give it a 9 out of 10, and I was really happy to rewatch this film. What about you, Devin? What would you give it?
I would also give it a 9 out of 10. I watched it a ton when I was a kid. I have the Stitch toys still, my original ones right here, and I always loved the movie, but a 9 out of 10 is just a great score because I am very harsh when it comes to movies, and this movie is basically an A. Stitch is unlike any character that Disney has created. I know that they sell millions of Stitch plushes a year, and you just see Stitch everywhere. Every Disney store, every place at Disney World, everyone loves Stitch. And what would be your top 3 characters in the movie Lilo and Stitch?
Top 3 characters. First off, before we get to the characters, I do want to say that we did not tell each other what we were rating these films because...
No, we did not.
Yeah, I did not realize you were going to also say 9 out of 10. So we are completely aligned on our movie review, which is amazing, just for the viewers. Top 3 characters. I would definitely say Nani is one of my favorites. I also am a big fan of Mr. Bubbles, and I would also say Pleakley is kind of fun. So those would be my top 3. Lilo would be an honorable mention. I'm a big fan of all the characters in the movie, and of course Stitch as well. So those would be my top 3. And what about you, Devin?
At number 3, I'm definitely going Nani. She took care of her sister after her parents died. And while rewatching the movie, I just rewatched a few weeks ago for the first time in about 3 or 4 years, and I didn't realize how dark it really is deep down because it's a sister who is taking care of her sister Lilo, and she is going through all these terrible things with her parents who just passed away, and it really just, you feel so sympathetic for these characters because Lilo doesn't understand what's going on, and then Stitch comes into her life and really affects her in a way that brings the whole family together, and then by the end of the movie they're with the aliens and their life just is completely fixed, and it's just a really beautiful story. At number 2, I'm going, of course, Lilo. Everyone loves Lilo. And number 1, Stitch, 100%. I have loved Stitch. He's one of my favorite Disney characters. Now, there are a lot of memorable scenes in Lilo and Stitch, so what would you say is your favorite scene from the movie?
That's a great question, Devin. I think one of my favorite scenes would be when Lilo meets Stitch for the first time at the adoption center. It's just an iconic scene in this film, and it's something that just really stood out, and it's a core memory when I was watching this back in 2002. Another scene that I really enjoyed was when Mr. Bubbles arrives at the home, and he's there with Nani, and they can't actually get in the house yet, but the music starts playing, and that's one of the first times where you hear an Elvis song. It's an iconic scene as well, and it just stood out for me. How about you, Devin?
I feel like that was the first time I ever heard Elvis music because I watched Lilo and Stitch when I was like probably 3 or 4 years old, and I think that was like my first introduction to Elvis, which was pretty cool. My favorite scene has to be the ending scene when Stitch is finally caught and is going to be taken back to space, and then Lilo comes out with her adoption paper and shows that the aliens would actually be stealing, and then Bubbles says aliens are rule followers, and they are able to keep Stitch, and he is exiled for life at Earth, and I just think it's a very beautiful scene and sums up the movie in a great way. Now, when it came to the new Lilo and Stitch movie, what was your first reaction to seeing that we're getting a new movie?
That's a great question, Devin. At first, I was really excited because this is one of my favorite movies from childhood, and to see a live-action version is something that I would have never expected. I always knew, it could have been possible with all the remakes that have been released in the past years, but it was very impressive. I think I was most impressed with how the CGI looked, if there was CGI. I assume there was, and then also how each character resembled their cartoon versions, and then the music was just an amazing addition to everything. What did you think of this live-action movie?
Now, I loved it. I thought that Stitch looked incredible. The CGI for him, at least it didn't look as bad as Sonic, and no fans wanted a new Stitch. And I'm really excited. I've also seen that Stitch animatronics are appearing all over the country. He was seen at the Santa Monica Pier. He was seen at movie theaters popping out of popcorn buckets. He was also seen driving around in his car. Did you happen to see that yet?
I've seen some of those videos, and especially the Super Bowl one too, where Stitch was running on the field. That was impressive, and it was really fun to watch.
No, I really loved that commercial too, and I think that this movie is going to be incredible, and I think it's going to get a lot of better reception than past movies, hopefully. I know in the past, I don't know if you've seen The Lion King, Billy, but I wasn't very impressed with that at all. Did you watch that movie?
I did see The Lion King, and I know that there was the new one that was just released as well a while back. What was that one? It was Mufasa?
Yeah, I did not see Mufasa, but I know that the first Lion King grossed about $1.6 billion, that referring to the first live action. But a lot of fans didn't like that one and said that it was very dull, and I actually do agree with that, but I'm really hoping that we get a better movie with the Lilo and Stitch remake, because fingers crossed, I hope that it's my favorite live-action movie from Disney.
So, Devin, I actually have a question for you, and I think it might be interesting for anyone listening to this podcast. I want to just know your thoughts and opinions on the trailer. So, did you think, I know that we've all heard this story before, but do you think this trailer gave away the entire movie for someone who's never seen Lilo and Stitch? What are your thoughts on the current version of the trailer that was released?
Now, as someone who has seen the movie, you kind of put it together what the whole movie is. So I don't think that they revealed the whole movie per se, but I'm not really a fan of movie trailers. I don't think we've talked about it much, but I don't watch movie trailers. So I personally haven't watched the entire trailer. I watched about maybe a minute or two of it, but I don't like to see everything that they're putting in the movies, because I feel like 90% of movies nowadays just reveal the exact plot. And as someone who watches a lot of movies, you can kind of put two and two together a lot of times. So I honor a lot of movies that do not put everything in the trailer. What about you? Did you watch every single trailer? I know that there's a ton of trailers out so far.
I usually do watch a lot of the trailers. It's something that, I know you're the movie expert, so it's something that I do watch a lot of the trailers. And I do feel that certain times when there's a movie that I really don't want to know too much about, I'll watch maybe the first trailer, which is the reveal, and then I'll kind of just wait until the movie is released and then watch the movie, and then maybe look back on some of the trailers just for fun to see how they were edited, or just see the cinematography. But yeah, no, that makes sense. And it's something where, especially for this one too, I hope they don't rely too heavily on CGI, but we'll see. I saw that Pleakley looked exactly like a cartoon version of Pleakley, which I was impressed. What are your thoughts on that?
Now, I know that a lot of people were actually a little bit upset that Pleakley and Jumba were going to be human characters, and I know some fans were upset about that, but overall, I'm looking forward to the movie. And are you going to be watching opening night? What is your plan to see the movie?
Hey, if Devin invites me to opening night, I'll definitely be watching, so we'll wait and see.
Yeah, we will. Now, we have a personal connection to Stitch, because in 2005, Billy and I went to Disney World and went on Stitch's Great Escape. Do you remember anything from that ride, Billy?
I do, actually. So this is kind of unique in this podcast, where I can give you some inside details on Devin. And yeah, the year was 2005. We went to Disney for the first time. I still remember a lot of like the promo videos when you get a DVD, and I was so excited to watch. And one of the things that they were promoting at the time, or mentioning when you got to the park, was there was a brand new ride, and it was in place of, can you let me know, Devin, what was in place of that ride? Was it an alien ride? I remember it was some type of original, legacy movie ride. What was it exactly?
I don't remember off the top of my head. I know that it came in November 2004, and I believe we went in January 2005, so it must have been 2 months into the new ride.
Yeah, so what I remember is that we went onto this ride. It was brand new. Everyone was hyping it up. It was so exciting. And I remember Devin was only, 2005, so he was pretty young at the time. And I remember him kind of being excited, but also a little nervous. And then there were a lot of sound effects and a lot of things that were super loud. And I just remember you were definitely like laughing, having a good time, but also a little bit like, concerned. Is Stitch okay? Is everything, is everything going to be all right? Will we make it out of the ride? And I do remember that they included like a 4D experience where you heard the sounds, but you also like smelt the smell of Stitch and also different things that were going on. And then I think they might have even had some effects where like kind of like you experience wind and different things going on and different types of like animatronics. So it was really cool. And I remember it also being a little shorter than I expected. I didn't think it was all that long, but this was a while ago. And after that, I remember it being like something that we talked about a lot. It was something that was kind of like a very memorable experience, especially because it was one of your first rides at the park. So yeah, a lot of fun. And anything else that you remember, Devin? Anything specific when you were doing your research?
Now, I had nightmares from Stitch's Greatest Escape for a long time. I remember being so excited to go on the ride because Stitch was my favorite character. And all I remember, I was probably 4 or 5 years old, and right now I'm 24, so this has been 20 years. And I still remember just smelling the smells from that ride, and all of a sudden I was just in the dark, and I just hear like hissing and breathing behind me, and I turn, and nothing was there. And then I just remember stuff running in the shadows, and I just remember like being absolutely terrified because you have that smell, and then as a kid, I just imagined something in my ear, and I remember sleeping that night, and I was just terrified, but it was a fun time, and obviously something that I remembered. But I remember after getting off of that ride, we actually saw Stitch, and I was really scared to take a picture with him, and luckily my mom and I think Billy talked me into finally getting a picture with him. But all I remember that night too was that was the first night where I met Mickey, and I just always wanted to see Mickey as well, so I saw Stitch and Mickey on the same night, and that was a very core memory for me. But did anyone else have any nightmares from the Stitch ride at Disney World? Let me know in the comments 100%. Now the big question is will the movie Lilo and Stitch make over or under $1 billion at the worldwide box office? Billy, what do you think?
Nowadays, I think it's going to. I don't think that's too far off with a movie like this. There's a lot going on in Hollywood right now, and I think it's possible. I don't know if it's going to make it right away, depending on how many movies are being released at the same time. We'll see.
Now, I think 100% that Lilo and Stitch will make over $1 billion. We have The Lion King, which made $1.6 billion, and I feel like people love Stitch way more than they love The Lion King. Who knows, maybe it'll hit $2 billion. I know movie tickets are extremely expensive nowadays, but my prediction would be, and I hope that I'm right, and I'll stitch this video 100% if I am, but I would say it's going to be the #1 Disney live action of all time. I think it could reach $1.7 billion. We had Beauty and the Beast that had $1.2 billion at the worldwide box office. Aladdin was $1 billion. We also had The Jungle Book with $966 billion. But I think $1.7 billion, I will predict right now that Lilo and Stitch will be the #1 Disney live action movie of all time.
Wow, that is a great prediction. I'll say #2.
So you probably have it coming in between $1.2 billion and $1.6 billion, I'd say.
Yeah, that would be a great guess.
Now, Billy, if you didn't know, films actually need to gross roughly 2 to 2.5 times their budget to break even. And I believe that a rough estimate of the Lilo and Stitch movie budget has been between $75 and $150 million. I don't think it has cost this much, so this is a major opportunity for Disney to make a comeback after some failed releases. Now it's time for Movie Trivia Lilo and Stitch Edition. I'm going to ask 5 rapid-fire questions to my brother Billy and the audience, and we are going to reveal the answers at the very end so you can play along and comment what you think the answers are or what you got right or wrong. Are you ready, Billy?
I'm ready. Let's get started.
Okay, the first question is, what year did the last Lilo and Stitch movie come out? Is it A, 2004, B, 2006, or C, 2008?
That's a great question, Devin. I'm going to go with B, 2006, but I have also not seen the last Lilo and Stitch movie.
Question number 2, who voiced Lilo in the movie Lilo and Stitch? Is it A, Dakota Fanning, B, Davy Chase, or C, Abigail Breslin?
I would definitely go with B, Davy Chase.
Okay, question number 3. In Lilo and Stitch, how old is Lilo at the end of the movie? If you remember earlier on in the show, we revealed that.
I'm also going to go with B, 7.
Question number 4, what is the runtime of Lilo and Stitch without the end credits? Is it A, an hour and 19 minutes, B, an hour and 25 minutes, or C, an hour and 28 minutes?
So when I was watching this on Disney Plus, it said 2002, and then it was an hour and... I'm trying to think. I'm just going to go with an hour and 19 minutes.
Okay, and final question, probably the easiest. If you get this wrong, I don't know if you are a true Lilo and Stitch fan. What experiment is Stitch? Is it A, 616, B, 626, and C, 636?
B, 626 is my final answer.
Okay, time to go over the answers. And Billy, I think you got a perfect score. The answer of the first one, what year did the last Lilo and Stitch movie come out, was B, 2006, and the movie was actually Leroy and Stitch. The voice actress who played Lilo for question number 2 was Davy Chase. And if you didn't know, she also played the creepy girl from The Ring. Did you know that?
I had no idea.
Yep. In Lilo and Stitch, how old is Lilo at the end of the movie? She is 7 because she had 7 candles in the end sequence. And then for the final 2 questions, you were also correct again. What is the runtime? An hour and 19 minutes up to the moment when the credits come. And the last question, of course, what experiment is Stitch? He is experiment 626. Billy, you went a perfect 5 for 5, which I am very surprised, but you also probably showed me the movie for the first time when I was probably 3 or 4 years old in 2003 or 2004, so I'm also not surprised.
Thanks, Devin. I'll take my VHS copy back. Thank you.
So let me know in the comments, did you get all of these questions correct? And if you did get 1 or 2 wrong, which ones did you get incorrect? Now I know me and Billy are very excited for the movie Lilo and Stitch, so we want to know in the comments, are you excited for the new Lilo and Stitch movie, and what do you think of the first Lilo and Stitch movie from 2002? Billy, thank you for being here. We are going to have so many new episodes coming out for many TV shows and movies, and we thank you so much for watching. Billy, anything to say to the audience before we get going?
Thanks again for having me on the show, Devin. It was really cool to learn about all of the fun facts and hidden details, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Yes, thank you so much for either watching or listening, and we can't wait to bring you some more episodes. So this is Devin and Billy signing out.